Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Last thing, we need to have a little chat about those antennas on top of the Sears, because those white antennas, surprisingly tall, like almost 30 stories tall, which is about as tall as these black box buildings coming up here on the left. So pretty like substantially tall, right? These antennas, though, don't get to count towards the building's overall height. They're considered purely utilitarian. But if we compare that with the now tallest building in the US, which is One World Trade Center, and One World Trade Center has a spike on top of it that's called a spire. And technically a spire is not considered an antenna. Looks just like one, but not an antenna. A spire is considered a decorative design choice, so therefore does get to count towards height. Anyways, all that just to say that the roof of the Sears is technically 83 feet higher than the roof of One World Trade Center. So some have argued that they beat us on like a little bit of a technicality. I say that's okay. They can certainly have it. I just gotta point out the facts and numbers. Trump Tower has a spire, so check it out next time we go by. Just like a fancy antenna, but I don't know who to judge. So the Chicago we're standing in today rests on the ancestral lands of many different indigenous tribes who were once living here long before us. And one of those original tribes that called this land home was the Potawatomi. And we can actually credit them with naming Chicago, because the name Chicago comes from the Potawatomi term describing the smell of this land when it was first being settled. So Potawatomi word Chickawa translates to stinky onions, or land of the stinky onions. So New York does get the Big Apple. Stinky onions doesn't really ring the same. That's okay though, because no one calls it that, and we got a lot of other good nicknames here as well, right? We'll talk about one of them shortly. But first, gotta point out the lovely Civic Opera building up on the right. This whole building is shaped like a giant throne or an armchair, facing west, so to the left, with the actual theater being in the seat of this throne or armchair, meaning right now we're going by the backstage area. The Lyric Opera Company, which is the second largest opera company in the U.S. Really beautiful theater. And I want you to take a look at both sides of the river, if you like it, because these two buildings were built like the exact same time in 1929, and they have a lot in common, right? It looks aesthetic-wise, but there's one major difference, and that's Riverside Plaza on the left embraces the river, while the opera building on the right quite literally turns its back on the river. And these were both very intentional choices, with this, the opera building, the turning the back, certainly being majority attitude back in the day. Riverside Plaza was actually the first building to incorporate the river into its architecture. And at the time, 1929, that was a very bold this river was like the shame of Chicago, like really thought of as a back alley, no windows facing it, throw your trash in it. People just kind of pretended it didn't exist. And today, like I kind of mentioned, it's hot real estate. People want to live along it. How many people we see boating on it. Last summer I saw guys swimming in it, which I'm pretty sure is illegal. But point being, attitudes, feelings towards the river have certainly moved in a more positive direction over time. So you probably noticed that we have a couple bridges here in Chicago, right? We've been going under quite a few bridges today. All the been going under today do indeed open up. They typically remain closed though, except for when we do scheduled bridge runs. And we hold those on Wednesday and Saturday mornings in the spring/early summer and fall. So they may have done like the last one for the season this morning, but they open up all the bridges in succession, so folks can take their sailboats or tall boats out of storage, bring them into marinas along the lake, or vice versa. They're kind of cool to watch. I think today was supposed to be the last one, but I'm not sure if there were any more like sailboats to go through, but maybe some of you saw it. All right, headed back into Wolf Point. On the right-hand side, you'll notice this building that curves quite nicely along with the curve of the river. Also uses this reflective glass in two different shades, blue and green, that's meant to complement the water and the sky. So this is the new Bahng building, 1983. So kind of way ahead of its time, I think, because it's another great example of how a building can conform to or complement its context, which of course we all remember is called contextualism. This building's also featured in one of my favorite movies, a Chicago classic, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's Ferris's dad's office building, watches him in the parade from up there, if you are familiar. And you should be. Great scene, great movie.